Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. I'm Councillor Hugh Mason, the Cabinet Member for Planning Policy. And you may wonder why I'm here. It is that Councillor Darren Sanders, the Cabinet Member for Housing and Tackling Homelessness, is at the moment on his way to France. First of all, the housekeeping information. If the continuous fire alarm sounds, please evacuate the room in the public gallery by the stairwells. Please do not attempt to use the lifts. Assembled by Queen Victoria's statue in Guildhall Square. In order to comply with the fire marshal regulations, if you signed in at the reception desk, you should sign out when leaving the building. I would draw your attention to the fact that this meeting will be live streamed. Everyone speaking via a microphone will be on camera, including anybody making deputations or any members in the public gallery. Members of the press and public are permitted to record the meeting on the understanding that it neither disrupts the meeting nor records those stating explicitly that they do not wish to be recorded. Please, can everyone use the microphones and remember to switch them off when they have finished. I think first of all we need to do introductions. As I've said, I am Councillor Hugh Mason.
Councillor Rowan Dent, Cotton Ward.
Councillor Charlotte Gerardo, Central Southsea Ward.
Alison Harper, Democratic Services.
Amy Holmes, Building Safety Manager.
Steve Groves, Head of Building Maintenance.
Patrick Leggett, Head of Capital Projects.
Sam Rickard, Housing Regulations Manager.
Sally Scattergood, Assistant Director of Housing.
Bob Hughes, HMB Business Team Manager.
James Hill, Director of Housing, Neighbourhood and Building Services.
Alan Denford, Finance Manager for Housing, Neighbourhoods and Building Services.
Mandy Buxey, and is part of the Residents Consortium.
And congratulations on your award. Well deserved.
Trevor Lovett, member of the Residents Consortium, elected member of Residents Consortium and leaseholder in Southsea.
Nicola Clanahan, Head of Housing Community Services.
Right, thank you. I have apologies from absence from Councillor Spencer Gardner and obviously from Councillor Darren Sanders. Declarations of members' interest. Do either of the members here have interest to declare? No? Okay. That brings us to the first item, substantive item on the agenda, Sarah Robinson House, the building safety case. Who is presenting that?
That'd be me, Councillor.
Okay. Over to you.
So the purpose of the report is an information-only report to the Cabinet to provide an update on the building safety work at Sarah Robinson House and our building assessment certificate application to the Building Safety Regulator. You'll see in the report the background, where the report provides some background information about the Building Safety Act 2022 and the new legal responsibilities that owners of all buildings that are 7 stories plus have to register the buildings to the Building Safety Regulator. From a PCC point of view, we have 22 buildings that are within scope, and they've been registered, and Sarah Robinson House is the first of those to be actually called in. The duties, the background talks about the duties that's been placed on us as owners. Firstly, we must register and apply to the Building Safety Regulator for a building assessment certificate when called in, and all buildings in scope are expected to be called in by the regulator within the next 5 years. As part of the application for the certificate, we have to undertake a thorough review of the building in terms of the building safety, primarily focusing on the fire safety with regard to fire safety and structural failure. And the certificate will last for 5 years. The key to the assessment is to ensure that we can demonstrate that we know the building, we know the occupants, we can identify management systems that are used, that identify risks and assess and mitigate them, and ensure residents are kept fully informed. Essentially, it is to demonstrate that the building is safe to be occupied. So there are 3 aspects that we've had to undertake. The first is the prepare a building safety case. That is a holistic review of the building And to do that, we've commissioned various surveys and investigations. The building safety case outlines our approach to residents, the profile of those residents, how we manage repairs, cleaning, ground maintenance, waste, and provides an overview of our overarching governance when we're managing the building. The building safety case also highlights scenarios and assessments of risk and has an action plan of how we are going to address and manage the building with responsible people allocated to those actions and timescales. To conclude, we need to demonstrate why the building is safe. We've also had to develop a block-specific resident engagement strategy and how we engage with residents. That is around making sure we can discuss with them and be clear how they want to be communicated, what information they want, and how and when the information is shared with them. The third aspect is that we have to develop a mandatory occurrence reporting system that allows us to report any significant issues to the regulator. And PCC have developed an occurrence log, logging any resident concerns, assessing them, and then how we can feed back to them. Specifically, Sarah Robinson House is the first case that we have developed. The request was received to do a building safety case on the 23rd of May 2024, and the application for the certificate was submitted on the 19th of June 2024. The documents are currently being reviewed by the regulator. The building safety case that we've submitted demonstrates how HMB and all aspects of the directorate are managing and engaged in managing the building. We've engaged with consultants and fire safety engineer specialists to help us undertake surveys, structural surveys, FRAs and the like. And we've also engaged with our how we manage our contractors and report and manage our servicing. Key actions that have come out of Sarah Robinson House is to replace the property and communal fire doors, install additional smoke and heat detectors within the properties, undertake some compartmentation works. Our overarching strategy is to complete all the building safety casework of all the high-rise buildings and then prioritise actions and develop a building safety programme. But in this instance, due to the height of the building and the fact it's only got one staircase, we recognise the actions would be a high priority regardless of any other work. So we have proceeded with moving forward with the various schemes. The future works and resident engagement is highlighted in the report, and we will be writing to all the residents to let them know that the certificate has been applied for, give them the opportunity to review the application, hold drop-in sessions in person to answer any queries, and issue a range of safety information to them to keep them informed of how we're managing the building. The other part of the report links it to the regulator for social housing and the consumer standards. As we're aware, the Social Housing Regulation Act has various consumer standards such as neighbourhood and community standard, safety and quality standard, the tenancy standard and the transparency, influence and accountability standard. And the building safety case will, and the building safety assessment certificate will support the conformance to those standards. So I think that concludes the report. Ready to take any questions.
Right. Well, first off, are there any questions from the Residents' Consortium?
None from me, Chairman.
Yes. Sorry? No?
No, thank you.
Members, questions? Yes. Councillor Dent.
Just one on that, where the additional heat and smoke detectors, are we making sure that as recently that we had to gain access to all the properties that CO alarms have been installed into every property?
Yes, so CO alarms were already, as you're aware, part of the regulations that we had to do. So we have already done that, and we've taken opportunities as part of our annual gas servicing to undertake putting in CO alarms in every instance.
Okay. Councillor Corkery.
We'll have to share this on, if that's right. Apologies for being late. I got held up at work. If you could just bear with me, I have got some notes and questions that I did put together. If I could just find them. They're saying that might be easier said than done. I guess to kick off, my initial question was going to be about, and apologies, you missed your introduction, so you may well have covered it, but I've read the report. In terms of how this fits into the wider programme of works and prioritisation, I know you referenced Sarah Robinson House being a high-rise block with a single staircase. Obviously, it's not the only one, so how does it relate to the other blocks that are of a similar makeup in that way? And then, more widely, I know I've asked quite a few times about things like fire doors, because that's what is something obvious that a resident kind of is aware of. Do you know what I mean? They've been told, some of them at various points in the past, your fire doors are in the budget to be replaced. So just maybe an update so we can kind of feed that back to residents when we're having those discussions on what likely timeframes are and where other blocks may fit within the wider programme. Thanks.
Yeah, so as I sort of discussed in the report, our overarching strategy is to do all the building safety cases so that we've got a better view of all the actions that are coming out of all the blocks. And that is still the case. We're still developing all the building safety cases in preparation for them being called in. Once we've got all the information and we're clear about what all the actions are for each of the blocks, we will then develop a building safety programme, and we will be coming back to Cabinet to confirm exactly what that programme is, but likely to be for the next financial year. As part of that programme, we will have a clear programme that links to the building safety work we've done at the moment.
Okay, thank you.
Question from me. So there will be a sequence of these investigations on the 22 high-rise blocks. Who calls them in and who sets the order in which they are being examined?
So the building safety regulator is the body that calls them in. Amy might be, well, actually, I don't think we've had clear guidance on the order they'll come in, but they're likely to be linked to the height of the building. So therefore, that's why we've had like Ladywood House we know is on the list, and also Sarah Robinson, because they're some of our highest blocks. So we think that's probably most likely to be it. But we are getting further guidance, and hopefully we'll find out in due course what the order is for the rest of the blocks. But like I said, we do know that they will all be called in within the next 5 years.
All right, thank you. And are there any particular things we have learnt from the process of doing this investigation at Sarah Robinson House?
I think that the main learning that we've had, and obviously once we get the feedback from the regulator, we'll be even more informed. But I think the main piece of learning is the fact that we've been able to pull together all the information required into a format that, if it is acceptable, we will then take that forward when we're developing the other building safety cases, or if we get feedback from the building safety regulator, that will then in due course inform it. As it happens, I've just come straight from a meeting where, as a senior management team, we've gone through the building safety case for Sarah Robinson House, and as a senior management team, we can all then look at how we can make that better when we do the next one. So we're continually reviewing it and getting feedback on how we can improve the case.
Right, thank you. Nothing else? That was a matter for information, so no decision has to be made on it. We now come to the agenda item 4 on the agenda, which is on local authority contents insurance renewal. Who is presenting on this? Right, thank you.
Hello. Okay, the purpose of this report is it's an information-only report to outline the approach taken to renew the Tenants' Home Contents Insurance, which came into effect on the 30th of June 2024, and also promoting the benefits of the scheme to improve the take-up with local authority tenants and leaseholders. Whilst tenants occupy our buildings, the buildings are insured by PCC, but it doesn't include the personal contents within their home. This scheme provides a suitable, affordable, low-cost insurance product to enable housing tenants and leaseholders protection from the threat of any sort of damage to the contents of their properties. We've renewed on the basis of the existing terms, which is actually fixed for 3 years. So therefore, there's no increase in premiums for tenants for the same level of cover. So a 3-year freeze on premium costs. But in the current economic climate, this outcome was financially beneficial for residents, as it means the stability of no rises for the next 3 years. But as with all financial products, other providers are available, so tenants and leaseholders don't have to take this product. The second part of the report looks at the promotion of the scheme for a greater take-up. Now, in the area housing office, this is already happening as business as usual. We can use HMB publications and resources that our broker Aon are able to provide, but also at residents' meetings, and I presented a presentation to the Residents' Consortium on the 4th of July, and with some enthusiasm from those there. And also bringing this report into the housing meeting here will also further raise awareness of the scheme and its benefits, with the housing member and other councillors can be made aware of the scheme and asked to make housing tenants aware through their councillor surgeries, etc. So I don't think I need to elaborate any more on that. I think that sort of summarises that. But if anybody's got any questions.
Members of the consortium, any questions? Yes.
Just a comment, really. I have to say the presentation that we were given was excellent, very, very good. And the feedback after the meeting from the members of the Residents' Consortium was very, very positive. They're very competitive prices, and the fact that it's fixed for 3 years. So hopefully after that 3 years we can go on with another competitive price, but it's very good. And I urge residents to take it up. Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback.
Thank you. Would you like to comment on that?
Thank you for that. Oh, sorry.
My only concern is, I was at the presentation, as you know, and I've looked into it, and it's really good, and I personally am going to take it up. What concerns me is I know it's fixed for 3 years, but I'm a little bit sceptical. Once they've got a lot of business from PCC residents after the 3 years, are they then going to think, right, we can just bump it up? Is there anything in place that there's only a percentage that they should be able to bump it up to?
Obviously, I can't comment on necessarily what's going to happen in 3 years, but we do go through a negotiation, as the report summarises, a negotiation with our broker and with the best supplier. So, I mean, we can build that in to that. But, I mean, I can't make any promises 3 years in advance at the moment. But we would obviously try and do something which is beneficial for the tenants and or leaseholders.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Members, any questions? Councillor Gerardo.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report, and yeah, I agree with comments made that the scheme looks really good and competitive, which is great. I just had a question in relation to take-up under sort of point 7. It says that in 2023 the take-up was less than 6%, which is approximately 850 tenants, and then in 721 it says the take-up is below average. I just wondered what the average is and how we compare to other local authorities. Thank you.
I don't have those figures down, but I will find that out for you. Okay, yeah, thanks.
Councillor Corkery.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, the policy and the service on offer sounds great, and clearly the costs compare very favourably with what else is available. Just a question more on policy around contents insurance, a wider question rather than specifically about this report, if I can, because it just picks up on some casework I've been dealing with recently. What is the council's position in terms of when damage is caused to a property, maybe, for example, as a result of a leak, if a leak goes through to a property below and, say, carpets are damaged, would the council direct people to claim on their contents insurance, or does the council have a policy of if obviously the costs have come as a result of damage to the building or disrepair, would the council cover it itself? I'm just curious because I'm dealing with some casework with a housing association recently who have directed the tenant to claim on their contents insurance. And I'm seeing nods, so I'm assuming that is perhaps the same policy. But I guess then my question is, are there any implications for that in terms of people's insurances and premiums? I don't quite know how contents insurance works, but I know obviously other types of insurance, if you claim, then you could increase your future premiums, which doesn't seem fair if it's not your fault in the first place.
I mean, so we would direct people towards their contents insurance. Quite how that impacts on this particular policy, their premiums, couldn't tell you offhand. I mean, it's something we can certainly have a look at in terms of the trends that we might have seen. I'm not sure there is a direct correlation between claiming and the premium that they pay, but we can have a look at that, certainly, and come back to you.
A question from the chair. How are you proposing to increase the take-up? Or because, as you have pointed out in section 7, the take-up is low, surprisingly so, since this appears to be such a good insurance deal. So how are you promoting it?
I think obviously 7.2 does outline methods that are being used and proposed to be used, and I think it's carrying on with that. I think the presentation in particular to the Residents' Consortium was a good way of doing that, and we'll also look at rolling that out as well. So I think we need to build that, but I mean that's partly the reason for bringing the report here as well, to give it more visibility.
Mr. Hill.
Yeah, just to sort of complement that, really, I think we will always promote contents insurance through when we're signing up tenants to properties. I think the reason we wanted to bring this here today is because we see a key role for members to support us in that promotion. So recognising that the housing across Portsmouth sits in many wards, we were really keen for the members of this cabinet, of this portfolio, to take it back to their group and just raise awareness that there is this offer for tenants of Portsmouth City Council. And you should also find that the housing associations will have similar schemes for tenants in housing association properties as well, equally competitive pricing. I think the issue for us is we see the worst of the outcome when an incident occurs and tenants don't have contents insurance. And to pick up on Councillor Corkery's point, if there is a flood or fire or something of that nature, it's only then that tenants appreciate the value of the contents insurance, but sadly at that point they don't have access to it. So it's difficult. We recognise the cost of living. There's a choice here, isn't there, of how, can people afford contents insurance? We recognise all of that. But I think what we wish to do is just make sure every tenant is aware it's there. We've come across too many instances where tenants say they didn't know it existed, and likewise with members. So I think that's why it's here, to promote it more. And then if tenants make a choice, that they've made that choice, but at least we've done our very best to promote it, talk about the benefits, and also the consequence of not having it in the instant that there's a fire or flood of something of that nature.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Councillor Gerardo.
Just as a follow-up to James's suggestion there, I wondered if maybe there could be a specific email from you promoting this offer just to all councillors, just because obviously we can raise it with our groups, but then if there's a link, then it's just something we've got on our emails to share with residents.
Yes, very happy to do that. Thank you.
Right, thank you. That item was also just for information, and so we have been informed. We now move on to agenda item 5, which, as James Hill will remember, I approached with some trepidation, having a memory of the meeting of the 19th of July 2007, when I wondered whether I'd get out alive. So we have the PCC Park Homes Policy 2024. Sam Rickard, please.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. So the purpose of this report is to make recommendations regarding the approval of the Park Homes policy following a recent consultation with residents of Henderson Park and Cliffdale Gardens. The report also recommends officers complete a piece of work to update the written statement for both sites and work with residents to formalise plot boundaries, essentially so the council remains compliant with its legal obligations and residents are clear on the areas that belong to them through renting their plot from the council. So, as a quick background for the sites, the council is the landlord of two residential park home sites, Cliffdale Gardens and Henderson Park. The residents live on these sites as owner-occupiers and rent their plots from the council. Living on the sites requires residents and the council as site management to adhere to several rules which are detailed within their written statements, which ultimately forms the legal agreement between residents and the council. So the report outlines some of the issues that led to the policy proposal, namely a protracted permissions process, some lack of information surrounding the council's requirements, and the need for guidance on some issues such as buying and selling a home. So the policy aims to clarify those requirements, simplify processes, as well as provide helpful information. It's worth highlighting that the policy does not change any of the rules or requirements for the sites, and these remain firmly within the written statement, nor does it introduce any changes to how the council manages sales, including not charging a commission. The policy also makes clear where planning permission is needed. So, focusing on the Park Homes policy and the outcome of the recent consultation first of all, the report highlights that the policy received overwhelming support from residents. The report breaks down responses received and views expressed regarding the draft policy, explaining where those have been used to amend the policy in some way. The report also summarises the views of the Planning Department and Fire Service from their responses given, and colleagues in planning suggested some amendments and wished to emphasise the need to obtain planning permission in most cases. So the outcome of this work has led to a policy being produced which officers and residents are very happy with and feel it accurately reflects a proportionate way towards managing the park home sites. The consultation, along with further discussions with colleagues in legal services, has thrown up areas within the policy that don't align with the written statement as it currently stands, which again is the legally binding document that residents have with the council. I would just point out that a number of the issues affecting residents, and therefore included within the policy, were not issues that impacted residents when the written statement was introduced, such as the use of electric cars. So secondary to this, officers highlighted within the report a piece of work concerning plot boundaries and the need to formalise these within the Park Home Service. So generally, plot boundaries are well established and have been for many years. However, the council are obliged to provide plot plans to residents on request. Because of the way the sites were developed, the boundaries haven't been formally established, which is no longer recognised as the best arrangement for residents. Having clear plot boundaries supports residents to understand effectively which area belongs to them. So the process for conducting that work is explained in the report, but essentially it's a consultation exercise with residents, offering a proposed plan and giving time to receive any questions and concerns before formalising that with residents. The cost of that work will be borne by the council. However, if residents wish to purchase additional copies, they can do so for a small fee. It's envisaged that as part of that consultation, officers will also include a proposed updated written statement which marries up with the themes of the policy so that the two documents neatly align. Hopefully that summarises everything within the report, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Under the heading of pitch fees on page 60, excuse me, I notice that the pitch fee is a commercial rent and includes the cost of running the management services, maintenance of sites, and this is the bit that concerns me, and any planned works or improvement. that suggests to me that any planned works or improvement is already costed within the weekly or monthly pitch fee. Now, as a tenant in Southsea, when there's some planned works, I normally get out, they normally comes out to me paperwork, maybe approximate costs, and when the work's going to be undertaken. But that suggests that it's already costed within the pitch fee. Am I correct?
No, that's not entirely correct. So what that pitch fee does is it accounts for any and all repair works, and within that there might be some planned repair works. So a recent example would be we upgraded the street lighting, for example, at both of the sites. That is costed within the pitch fees. So what the council were able to do when we updated our pitch fees at the beginning of the financial year is we were able to cost that work within that, and it didn't impact the increase any further. So we didn't essentially need to increase the pitch fee beyond, I think it was CPI at the time.
So, Chairman, following on from that then, if it did impact it, how would you address that with the, I call them tenants, but pitch fee holders? Because it must then incur an extra cost.
There is a mechanism that the council can do that, but it is under consultation with the residents. And because what that will do is impact the pitch fee that residents pay. So if the council aren't confident that they can cover the cost of repairs on site within the standard pitch fee, they will consult with residents. In fact, they have to consult with residents on that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. No, I have no questions.
Okay. Members, questions? Councillor Gerardo.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for the report and for all the work you've done in developing the statement. Sorry, I can't see you, so I'm just going to speak forward so I speak into the microphone, but I'm sorry for being rude. My question relates to point 4.2 on page 37. About the survey responses. 39 survey responses out of 114, obviously with then overwhelming support for the policy sort of statement that was being suggested, which is obviously really good. But that is, well, that's firstly, it's the number of responses. We don't know how many households actually responded to that, because obviously a few could be from the same house. So my concern is that obviously there is quite a number of people that weren't involved in seeing those statements and the consultation, and therefore might see this coming up and be quite surprised that there's some things in it when actually, obviously, as has been said by the officers, that it's just sort of reiterating the sort of situation with their properties, but there may be things in there that they didn't realise or that they'd forgotten about. So I just wondered what the plan was in terms of engagement with residents about this, to make sure that everyone is, really aware and that there aren't any surprises, basically.
Yeah, thank you. So I should add that in addition to, sorry, it's quite awkward, isn't it, doing like this? I should add that in addition to the consultation, we did also run residents' forums. So all residents were invited to those forums, and there was a forum that took place kind of midway through this consultation. So there was an opportunity for everybody to come along and partake in that. I would also add that the consultation that went out to everybody in the post, as well as being available online. So we're confident that every resident on both of those sites would have received a pack through the post informing them of all of this. Obviously not everybody chose to partake, but we've got a good degree of confidence from the numbers that came forward and did partake in the consultation. Thank you.
Mr. Hill.
Yeah, just in addition, I think also the plan is to display the policy at both sites. They're fairly compact sites, so there's quite a healthy network on the sites. So if you're doing anything, it tends to get known quite quickly across both sites. But anyway, we'll be displaying the policy. And also worth noting that there's an engagement point where we're updating the written statement. So that written statement that exists between the City Council and every mobile home owner will be refreshed in light of this policy and updated to account for things like electric cars and so on and so forth. So there'll be a discussion with every mobile home site owner. at both sites, and that's another opportunity, if they've missed everything else, for us to sit down and just go through why we're updating the written statement, what the policy contains, and so on. Hopefully no surprises at that point.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Dent, Councillor Corkery? Right, thank you. There are 3 recommendations here: that the Cabinet Member for Housing and Tackling Homelessness approve the policy and instructs officers to consult with residents on amendments to the written statements for Cliffdale Gardens and Henderson Park to align the written statements with the new policy. That the Cabinet Member approves the adoption of this policy on completion of the amendments to the written statement, subject to no material changes being necessary following the consultation. Until the formal process for updating the written statement is complete, the policy will not be formally adopted. And that the Cabinet Member instructs officers to carry out works highlighted within this report to formalise park home plot plans so that residents are clear on their plot boundaries and the Council remains compliant with their legal obligations. I intend to accept those recommendations unless the members here have any objection. No? Thank you. So those are accepted. That, so far as I can see, concludes the business of the afternoon. And thank you for the courtesy which you have shown to the Chair, and I wish you all a good evening. Thank you.